NFL coaches and decision makers ranked Trevon Diggs as a top 10 cornerback heading into the 2022 season. Where exactly does he rank among defensive backs? All that and more in this episode of Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, how's it going today, sir?
It's going great. I'm excited to kind of have a conversation that's probably going to lead into some arguments online. I'm excited talk. I know, never. I'm excited just to talk Cowboys football, as always.
All right, so ESPN is rolling out some of their rankings because it's July and it's the dead month of the season. So Jeremy Fowler of ESPN spoke to over 50 NFL coaches, executives, decision makers, and scouts. And they've been ranking positional groups, and they've just finished up some of the defensive guys over the last couple of days. And we've got some Cowboy guys to talk about. So let's start with one of the more controversial rankings. Trevon Diggs. He came in at number 10 in their list of cornerbacks heading into the 2022 season. One NFL scout ranked him at number 3, while the majority of decision makers ranked him outside of the top 10. A couple quotes from some coaches around the league. One NFC defensive coach said, "He's boom or bust right now. I love his instincts, but if the cost is giving up a bunch of big plays, I don't love the interceptions." Another AFC executive, "I actually think he'll get better because he can learn from all those chances he takes. He's clearly got ball skills." And one of my favorite quotes from an NFC defensive coach said, "Diggs is getting interceptions on plays that more seasoned corners would play more soundly when they wouldn't give up completions." I don't know, Landon. What are your thoughts on Trevon Diggs coming in at number 10?
Well, honestly, I mean, I'm not here to blast people's opinions on this because I think that their opinions on this are not necessarily wrong. I think there's a flaw inherently with kind of doing these sort of lists, right? Yeah. Because all of these teams come from all these people that they're discussing these rankings with all come from different teams that all have very different philosophies on how they play defense, how they play offense. And I think that Diggs kind of really presses upon that because there are definitely defensive coordinators who would rather you not give up any yards, that you're just sticking to your man and denying throws to go that way. Obviously that's not you probably only have 2 or 3 cornerbacks in the entire league and not even every year that can handle that kind of load where they're completely shutting off their side of the field. No passes are getting thrown to that side. Diggs is not that guy. Diggs is the guy who is intentionally taking chances at times in order to get you to throw the football to his way so that he can have an opportunity to pick it off. Do the chances always pay off? Absolutely not. There are definitely times he's given up a ton of yards, and I think everyone's gone over that and talked about that. But I think if you can argue both sides of this a lot of different ways. I mean, you can argue it from the analytics side on both sides. You can argue it from the tape evaluation on both sides. I think for every person that says he's given up 1,000 yards of receiving, you could point to his EPA on balls thrown to his side.
You could just filter out the receiving yards that they give up when they're up by 30 points, and it's kind of not super important, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is context matters here, and I think that I would rather have those 11 interceptions than worry about. Look, I mean, I think if in this case, if you want to have an idea of whether or not you felt like Diggs has had a positive impact, look how the defense is overall. The defense overall was very good, and he was a huge part of that. So I understand the ranking at 10 because I do think he does allow big plays from here and there. He does allow completions, but I also think that he's done this having played cornerback like 4 years
4
of his
years now.
life or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So I only think he's only going to get better from here. He's only going to get stickier from here. So I think that the thing that is, his floor, the thing that bothers him about, bothers other people about him, specifically decision makers. I think those things are going to get better as time goes on
I
because
would
he's going
think
to have
so.
more experience and more ability to recognize what's happening. But I would say that when you look at how young he is at the position and what he's able to accomplish, and the thing that, regression is a thing, and I don't think he'll have necessarily 11 interceptions next year, but the skill set behind the interceptions, like, that's not going away. His ability to track the football, to catch the football, that's not like a result of luck necessarily. That's skill. So I do think he will continue to get his hands on footballs. I do think he will continue to get interceptions. It's not probably realistic to think 11 per year, but I think it's also realistic to think that he's not going to give up as many yards because he's going to be a better cover guy moving forward. So that's where I'm at, I guess.
I kind of feel like Trevon Diggs is like a litmus test for what you value just on defense, right? Like if you are, I'm of the belief that you're not going to slow down elite offenses and really good quarterbacks. Like you just can't. It's too hard.
The rules just don't allow it, right?
Right.
Like
it's if Diggs is giving up, a third of those yards, they're going to find somebody else to pick on, right? It's just quarterbacks are too good. So give me the guy that can create the turnovers, right? They can create the game-changing plays. They can give the ball back to my offense. Listen, you know how much I love Byron Jones. I still think Byron Jones is a really good corner. But we just went, 3, 4, 5 years of Byron Jones playing cornerback. The concern was, well, he doesn't take the ball away. Who cares if he shuts down his receivers because the defense just isn't good because they're not getting takeaways. All of a sudden we get the opposite, right? Somebody who is getting the takeaways and now people are complaining. Just proves that Cowboy fans and the rest of the NFL will never be happy. There's no such thing as a perfect cornerback. It's just never going to happen.
What does your eyeball test tell you, right? Is it better to have a guy like Byron Jones who can stop you from throwing to one particular guy, but the quarterback still feels free to pass it to all the other guys on the field, or have a guy that is maybe not shutting down that receiver as much, but every once in a while when they throw that ball, that quarterback's got to hold his breath, and now that quarterback's got to think about that every single time he has to throw the ball too.
I want the quarterbacks to be terrified that if they just have a pass that's slightly thrown behind a receiver or slightly higher than what it should be, that it could be a pick six the other way. I think Trevon Diggs kind of offers that, and I think the longer he plays and the more years that he racks up these, big interception totals, the scarier it's going to get for defenses, right? And I think you're actually going to see, even though the coverage itself might not improve, but if he's getting 7, 8, 9 interceptions a year, quarterbacks are eventually going to stop throwing his way, which is going to have the same effect as Byron Jones locking down a receiver on the other side.
It's just a different way of doing it. And that, again, going back to what I'm saying, that's what's problematic about these kind of rankings, right? Is that a lot of this stuff, it's scheme specific. It's what you're looking for on your defense, which may not be the same as what the Steelers are looking for or the Ravens are looking for. But that doesn't mean that it can't work for you.
Absolutely. All right. I want to tell you guys about one of our newest partners, Dave. If you are not familiar with Dave, Dave is a banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. Sometimes unexpected expenses come up. Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it. That is more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. There is no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you are in a pinch and you need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That is Dave, D-A-V-E. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Future you will thank you. All right, Landon, let's get into Micah Parsons' ranking, which I think is a little bit more controversial. Yeah. So
I don't know this one, so I'm excited to hear it. And I'm excited to be shocked.
Same people ranking off the ball linebackers heading into 2022. Micah Parsons not at number 1. Darius Leonard, who's a great player in his own right. Darius Leonard at number 1. Multiple people put Micah Parsons at number 1. He finished as number 2. However, there were several NFL coaches who ranked Micah Parsons as the 10th off the ball linebacker in the NFL going into the season. Players ranked ahead of him by some include Roquan Smith, Demario Davis, Tremaine Edmonds, Levante David, and Jordan Brooks from the
Jordan Brooks, are you joking? Come on. What?
Seattle Seahawks.
Oh my God. Come on.
Can you get behind Micah Parsons being the number 2 ranked off the ball linebacker going into the season?
Ish. I mean, look, like, okay, I'll give you he's a rookie. He was a rookie last year. He was still learning the spot. It's, listen, it's hard to be the very best at your position coming into the NFL. And listen, I mean, certainly no. Who was it that was ranked number 1 again? I'm so sorry.
Darius Leonard from the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, look, Darius Leonard is a freak of nature, an All-Pro. It feels like Leonard may have, kind of. Did Leonard have an exceptional year last year? It felt like he kind of had some.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. But again, remember, Micah Parsons finished, I believe, 3rd in the Defensive Player of the Year award, and he probably would have won it if he was just a second-year player. Like, I'm not saying his stats are changed. Like, if he was just a second-year guy, I bet you he wins the award.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the issue here, right? Is that it feels like he's being punished for being a rookie a little bit. Man, I would take Micah Parsons over any of those guys 2 times. Like, I mean, it's just like that's again, I can understand the politics of these lists and all of that, but I don't think there's anyone on that list even close to, like, if we're doing a redraft right now, I would take Micah Parsons 4 times before I took any one of those guys. I mean, it's unbelievable because and I think that the part of the issue is that he's, again, it kind of feeds into the issues that offensive coordinators have with Micah Parsons. It's hard to identify what he's going to do at any given time. And when he's kind of bouncing around between roles, it makes for a difficult evaluation for exactly how he is as an off-ball linebacker. Look, if you're ranking, strictly the job of a will linebacker, and if you're doing the list like that, okay, all right, fine. You can have your Darius Leonard is the best linebacker in football. Sure. If you're talking about defensive football players, I think the list is Aaron Donald and then Micah Parsons, and then that's it as far as I'm concerned.
To that point, an AFC scout said, regardless of where he's ranked, he's the best playmaker on this list. Incredible talent. The speed is so good that they're so smart about the speed is so good, and they are smart with the way they use them all over. So I think people see that.
Let's talk about the speed real quick, because there was a video that came out that was posted. Was it posted by Dave Maglada's like actual account? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce the agent's last name, but Micah Parsons' agent, who I'm pretty sure is Dak Prescott's agent too, right? Is Dave?
Is it Dave Cantor?
I thought it was an M.
Oh, that's a different one. Yeah, that Dave Cantor is DeMarcus Lawrence. But yeah,
Dave Cantor. Okay. So, anyways, Micah Parsons' agent had some sort of kind of, I don't know, workout or field day or something like that. And the video that came out was a race between, and maybe you have the names in front of me. I don't remember. But
Andre Cisco, Isaiah Simmons, Micah Parsons, and some other defensive backs in there that.
So Cisco. Yeah, so Cisco is a safety. I don't know if you guys remember. He came out of Syracuse a couple years back. Mm-hmm. Obviously Simmons is the former Clemson, kind of hybrid defender, sort of.
Who by the way, ran a 4.39 official at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, and then a bunch of other professional NFL defensive backs all got in a race with Micah Parsons, and Parsons smoked him. It wasn't really that close. I mean, I think it kind of got close at the end with one of them, but I couldn't tell who it was. But I mean, Parsons was like two steps ahead of everybody.
Yep.
And it just shows you what a freak of nature, right? He's 240 pounds. Like I've sat there and watched him lift Tyron Smith off the ground at different points in training camp, and he's at 240 pounds at a guy who runs a sub 4.3, let's say 4.35 40 maybe.
I mean, sure.
He's an absolute freak of nature. He loves the game. I mean, look, just to kind of sum up Micah Parsons, bye Amari Cooper. Okay, bye Randy Gregory. Okay, the reason you want to know why I'm optimistic about this team, the Cowboys probably have, like I said, Aaron Donald and then Micah Parsons. Like I don't know that I would take anybody else in this league. Maybe TJ Watt, but maybe not. Honestly,
but I think that's the thing is like we're talking about like him now already in the same category as Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. I mean, Aaron Donald is. I think he's
Aaron Donald's a separate conversation. Right. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe the best to ever play defensive tackle.
But when we're talking about like the elite game changing defenders, he's one of the first two or three names that you have to mention, and that's why it's still kind of crazy that he came in at 2. It's kind of crazy that somebody ranked Blake Martinez ahead of him on this list.
What are you talking about? Are you serious?
See, that's the problem with these lists. And this is why you shouldn't take what anonymous scouts say and coaches as gospels, because sometimes they don't even know what they're looking at, because sometimes they're very biased, you know?
And look, again, so it's probably really hard to, if you don't watch every single snap of Micah Parsons, it's probably difficult to really grasp exactly how valuable he is. Because if you watch a selection of it, you know, he's kind of doing 2 or 3 different things, but watching him like throughout the season kind of move from spot to spot, go from covering wide receivers down the field, swatting away a pass that eventually gets intercepted by Curse 30 yards down the field up the sideline to, you know, destroying their team's best left tackle on his way to a sack. Like the same guy is doing those things. Yep. Like Micah Parsons is the next generation of NFL player. And I honestly think it's unfair to him to even be putting him in like this category, like pigeonholing him to this one, you know, position and the kind of context of that when he does that. And then so much more at such a high level, you know, like he doesn't just play like an all-pro linebacker. He plays like an all-pro linebacker and an all-pro defensive end at the same time.
Yep.
Like you can put him wherever you want. And that's just a dominant player like we've never really seen before.
Yeah, 2 is far too low. I know it can only go up one spot, but 2 is far too low for Micah Parsons going into the year.
Just take him out of that list and put him in his own category.
Yeah, they should.
He deserves it.
They really should. They really, really should. All right, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including MLB season, which we have going on right now. We've got golf, UFC, football is coming up. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, one little note that we need to cover here before we head out for the weekend. Von Miller, talking about the Cowboys, said he wanted to join the Cowboys in free agency. And here's the exact quote. I told them I was ready to come to the Cowboys. I would have taken less to go to Dallas because it's Dallas, but I wouldn't have taken that much less. According to Von Miller, the Cowboys offered him the same 5-year, $70 million deal that they offered Randy Gregory, with only 2 years of that deal guaranteed. Von Miller got significantly more money and significantly more guaranteed money to go play with Buffalo. Is this surprising to you?
No, not really. Certainly not Blake Martinez ranked above Micah Parsons. Surprising. I'm sorry. I am not over that yet.
And Nick Bolton, another rookie got ranked ahead of Micah Parsons.
Nick Bolton, the Missouri kid?
Yeah, from the Chiefs, who him and Anthony Hitchens split snaps last year.
he had a good season
He
for
did have a
a
good season.
middle round linebacker.
It was good. Yeah.
Sorry. What were we saying? Oh, yes,
Von
yeah.
Miller
Von
wanting to
Miller.
come to Dallas.
Look, it's not shocking that he got offered the same deal that Randy Gregory got
No,
offered. I mean,
no.
that's what the Cowboys allotted that they wanted to pay for one of these pass rushers. So the fact that he didn't take it is also not surprising. But I think people are finding a reason to get all upset about this all over again. But I don't know that this is really worth that. I think that that's not surprising that the Cowboys offered the same thing as Randy Gregory. That's what they had
That's not
allocated.
surprising to me. I would have offered him a little bit more, but I don't know if Dallas was ever going to do 6 years with, I think, 3 or 4 of those years guaranteed like Buffalo was going to do. They just
It just
weren't
doesn't seem.
interested in that.
I just don't know that it's a good idea. Like I love Von Miller. I think he's gonna be great, but that's a long deal with a lot of guaranteed money. You don't know exactly when that cliff is gonna hit.
Can I be clear though?
You
I
know?
think I like the deal for Buffalo. They're just in a different spot
Sure.
than Dallas is right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. That's it. Perfectly. Like they're ready to win the Super Bowl this year. They've got a roster that's ready. So yeah, if you got to overpay to get the guy that you think will take you over the hump, that's fine. I think the Cowboys are, they're in it to win the Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. But I think that they're also trying to be conscious of the fact that they have several more windows here to try to do this, including next year, where I think, again, we point to where they really are probably going to try to go, kind of all in there. So I can understand not wanting to kind of, eat into that reserve of money that you're going to use to pay your young players, to pay some 32 or 33-year-old pass rusher, some 6-year deal. Like, could he be good for 2 or 3 more years? Absolutely.
I expect him to be. Yep.
Yeah. Could he fall off a cliff after 2 years? Absolutely. That could be true too. I think it's not unwise for the Cowboys to have like a budget there and then, spend that money on some of these younger players that you want to pay Micah Parsons. Like that's where you want that money to go. So, and I think that feeds into that. If you're investing more money at that position as a pass rusher, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult to kind of find the money you want for Trevon Diggs, for CeeDee Lamb, and for Micah Parsons.
I do think the Cowboys could have worked something out here if they would have offered him like 16, 17 million a year over, let's say, 3 years. I think Von Miller might have accepted that. And I wouldn't have been opposed to the Cowboys doing that either. I think that would have made sense, but I understand why it didn't work out for either side. That's actually not some of the deals that bothered me from this offseason, because generally you don't love paying guys that are in their 30s with major injury histories and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think this is going to be a deal that we look back a year from now and be like, you know what? If the Cowboys make this deal, they win the Super Bowl. I don't get that feeling. As much as we wanted this to happen, I don't get that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sense that people are just like disgusted with this story. I just don't feel that way, just because it's like they made an offer that they thought was solid. They had a look, they clearly had a budget on this. He wasn't in their budget. They tried. Buffalo was willing to pay more money, and that's where they are in their development at this point.
I don't get the sense that like Von Miller is going to be the difference in the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl or not this year, right? Now for Buffalo, it might be, right? If Von Miller can get one stop for like the Bills against the Chiefs last year, they probably are winning the Super Bowl. I don't see Dallas and Buffalo being on the same kind of trajectory, right? Buffalo is a little bit further on, like in their Super Bowl aspirations.
I mean, you have to also look at it this way. Like, ultimately, we're talking about paying this is the third pass rusher.
Yeah.
This isn't your number one pass rusher. Like, Micah Parsons is going to be the featured pass rusher. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be heavily featured as well. So you already have 2 of these guys that you're paying one of them, and then the other one is your superstar that you're trying to feature. So, like, the idea that like it's outrageous that they wouldn't spend $17 million a year on a guy who he's not going to be a part-time player, but I mean he's not necessarily the Von Miller on this team. Micah Parsons is kind of that guy. So I think that's really kind of why the Cowboys, even with Randy Gregory, were kind of like, hey, this is the money we have to spend here. We feel like that's a good amount of money to spend on someone who's not necessarily the featured pass rusher on this team.
Yeah, let's say it's 17 million. That means that you would be paying 31 million in two pass rushers that aren't Micah Parsons. It's a lot of money. And I'm not
It is.
opposed to it because that's one position that I don't mind spending money. But you do have to recognize that's a lot of money for two guys that are in their 30s with injury histories.
Yeah, it's not like I mean, it's not. I think people are just blowing this off as the Cowboys are being too frugal. But if you look at it like how the resources are allocated, they have a lot of resources allocated to the position. And then after even Von Miller said no, they invested another second round pick at the spot. Yep. So they have a lot of things allocated here, and it's not like they're going to be short-handed at the position. Would it have been better to have Von Miller as kind of your third rotational guy as opposed to Sam Williams or
sure.
whomever?
Oh, I mean,
yeah,
great.
Sure, absolutely. But I don't know if it would have been worth the money and worth the opportunity lost to potentially re-sign some of your younger players down the road.
I 100% agree. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On NFL Podcast. Our national NFL experts and insiders keep fans dialed in with the biggest stories and the latest news from around the league, because an offseason doesn't equal a break in the action. Want to let you guys know about next week. Landon, you are actually off on vacation next week, going to the beach. So, man, very, very jealous. So
I gotta go check. Go check out that Pro Bowl. Gotta go scout out that Pro Bowl field in Oahu. See if it's any good. Even if they plan to move the Pro Bowl from Hawaii, I'm just gonna go there, just check it out.
To have fun. We'll have Chad Ryder from NFL.com on Monday. We got some other special guests lined up for later in the week, so we'll be back with our normal routine of shows. Follow the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. YouTube videos will still be going up there all week long. Follow Landon at McCoolBCB. Vacation Landon. Maybe he'll have some nice tweets from the beach. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.